Hi, my name is Ty Jones, and this is Behind the Curtain.
Hello, my name is Jeremy Ajani Jordan. I've been playing the piano for almost my entire life. When I think about Duke Ellington, as a pianist, obviously he's a huge influence, but I think the biggest influence he actually had on me was as a composer. He's written these massive compositions, these massive suites, for his own orchestra. But I think what I find so interesting about him is how much care he took in writing for his personnel. So a lot of times when I'm listening to his works, I can tell like, oh, this was written for his alto player, for his drummer. And that's really an amazing gift to have. To be able to write music, of course, is a gift, but then to be able to write music for specific people and for specific musicians' voices is really incredible. And that's something that I try to do whenever I'm writing my own music. I have in mind, okay, who's going to be playing this? I want to write something that's going to be fun for them to play. I want to write something that's going to allow them to express their individual voice, but still have it be written in such a way that it could be played by anyone. And I think Duke Ellington is the master of that, no doubt about it. And that's probably the biggest influence he's had on me. I imagine he must have been pretty aware of, what was happening around him. I mean, just, where he was living, the type of person he was, the things that were happening in society while he was active. And I do hear a lot of that in some of his writing, especially, when I think about that, I kind of think of the Sacred Music Suite, which is, this sort of amalgam of almost gospel music and sort of like Negro spirituals, but then also sort of the sort of big band swing, just sort of spang-a-lang jazz that Ellington is kind of known for. It's kind of amazing to me just thinking about that suite, like how he's able to combine so many voices into something that's really relevant to the people for the time. A lot of composers, they get heralded as geniuses like after their death, or sometimes towards the end of their career. But it's very rare for a composer to have the ability to write really high quality music that speaks to his peers and to his contemporaries. And Ellington was really, really good at that. On top of that, to have that same music be relevant through time, I mean, to someone like me who's listening and playing in 2021, and it still speaks to me in that same way and in an effective way, is pretty amazing. So he's really got a great grasp of the technical sense of composing, harmony, counterpoint, orchestration, but he also has a really great sense of the larger vision of what a composer is, which is really just a communicator. Someone that's able to speak to the people around him, speak through the musicians around him, but then have that message carry through decades, centuries. It's pretty amazing. I feel that artists or composers, a lot of times they can get pigeonholed into a certain kind of sound based on commercial success. Like that happens a lot, where it's like you've done something, you've done it at a high level, and it's beautiful, it's incredible. But then you become associated with that. And that's not just musicians, that happens to, visual artists, to actors, all sorts of people. And I think, and I'm speculating, but I suspect that Single Petal of a Rose was Ellington's way of showing, I have this whole other sound world that I love and that I use all the time, but it may just not always come out in the way that you would expect. In typical Ellington music doesn't really sound like that. And I think that movement is just him showing like, hey, I have knowledge of all of these other things that I don't always express, publicly or in a large way. And I know from just sort of studying about it that, to my knowledge, he spent quite a bit of time writing it. It was something that even he was saying, this is a special thing, And so for a person like Ellington, who's constantly writing tons of things at a high level, to then apply an extra layer of focus to something means that it must have been really important to him. And I suspect that's why he's showing that I'm way deeper than even what and that's why I love it so much. And then of course, being a pianist, is playing a solo piano piece by Ellington is always nice. So. The best piece of advice I can give to any person who's pursuing music is to think in two directions. Like always, what came before you. So the respect of the musicians that came before you, learning about what they did and why they did it and why it worked and what didn't work. And then also looking forward, which is how can I make something that hasn't been done before, but that will still communicate with people. And then combining those two things, because I feel that the job of any successful musician is to take what happened and what's known and then show a new facet of that, you know, or something that can be relevant to your time. So, you know, if I think about someone like Duke Ellington, you know, tremendous composer, pianist, band leader during the Harlem Renaissance, but you can trace his lineage. A pianist that a lot of people don't think about as being influenced by Ellington, but really is McCoy Tyner. McCoy Tyner, even though it doesn't sound like Ellington on the surface, when you delve into it, you see that there's a direct tie between the two of them. And that's to McCoy Tyner's credit, because that means that he studied what came before and then dressed it in a new way, so that it could be, so that he could present something new to his generation. And that's what I'm trying to do. I think that's what all musicians should be aspiring to do. And to do that in such a way that, you know, uplifts your community, empowers other musicians. And I would really say just think outside of yourself. Instead of focusing on what you need to do to make yourself great, because that's something that can change, you know, from day to day based on the opinions of people and the whims of society. Rather focus on what you need to do to make your community great as a musician. And you'll find that that can be anything. That can be teaching kids, that can be helping out at a community center, playing at a nursing home. And, you know, those things can really mean a lot more than you think that they do. And I think that's really the job of a musician. And as long as you're doing that, then I think the greatness will come, believe it or not.
Special thanks to Christopher Grymes for making this particular scene of Behind the Curtain happen.